I really see a direct relationship between that and Abu Ghraib. And the Metropolitan Detention Center, that's not a story people don't realize, but it was the U.S. Inspector General's own report about what was done to men who were picked up after September 11th and put in this one center in Brooklyn. And, you know, repeated strip searches on camera, in front of women, the same ideas. The same ideas that, you know, they like to be modest, so we're going to make them naked, right? They like private sexuality, they believe sexuality should be private, so we're going to make it public. So it's kind of, this, so that's how I see this whole kind of, this modesty, nudity, and force and choice. I have this kind of fun thing going on here. So the message of Abu Ghraib and the message of pulling hijabs and spitting is like, I'm going to force you to be free. Right? I'm going to force you to do what I want. Freedom. It's a very interesting way to convey a message. Okay, so I think that I have taken all my time. What else do I want to summarize here? Well, you know, I'll use the last 2 points because this is tied to my Fort Hood 6 o'clock Saturday morning. You know, I found that the majority of persons that I interviewed actually reported becoming more religious after 9/11. And I thought that was really an interesting finding. And maybe these quotes are just worth, I mean, there's a couple reasons for it, but I'll be right to the page, so it is meant to be. For example, one person said, the flow of unexpected questions encouraged me to learn more about my faith. So people are being asked, what's your religion believe? What's your religion? What's the Quran say about that? I don't know. You know? Another one said, there is no question that, being intellectually inclined, I became more critical of my faith, but to a pleasant conclusion, more reaffirming. It has affected my faith, and it made me look for certain answers that I did not necessarily need, but I needed to supply them to others. Another one says, my faith has become 100 times stronger after 9/11. I'm going to summarize here, I was not that religious before 9/11. I opened the Quran consistently and read it. And if I could add this, the things that I questioned, the things I thought were oppressive specifically to me and my gender, I went in search of. And these are the things I sought out and read. And when I went and I found out, I not necessarily agreed with everything, but I was satisfied with the reason that gave me peace with my religion. So, I mean, there's a lot of different paths to this increased religiosity. And finally, I talk about, I mean, in the book I also talk about mobilizations of support of Arab and Muslim Americans, because there was a lot of mobilization of support. And I think that broke the hegemony of these anti-Arab and anti-Muslim messages. I think we do have a little bit different environment now than we did before September 11th. There's like kind of more dueling discourses now. But I also said that people who propagate anti-Arab and anti-Muslim ideas have interests. They have vested interests in these stereotypes. They're not just doing it. I mean, they have vested interests, their political interests, their foreign policy interests, their religious interests. You remember during the Palin-McCain debate how anti-Arab and anti-Muslim sentiments were used to get votes to the Republican Party. I mean, they purposely used them to gain votes. So people have interests. And so, you know, I mean, the story isn't played out about Major Nadal Hassan and, you know, what happened, but I just wanted to suggest that, another plausible story. I mean, you know, as I say here, I have no reason to believe this is correct, but it is as plausible as the other explanations that are in the newspapers. So, you know, here's a person who enlisted in the Army in 1997. I mean, he had to have known in 1997 that there was a possibility he would be sent to the Middle East, right? He had to have known that, and he had to have already decided he could do it, that he could live with it. This is what I mean, he must have been recognized early on for his abilities because the Army paid for his medical school, they paid for his residency, and then he spent his entire career listening to stories of people coming from the war. And I have a colleague at Marquette who is a former military person and who studies post-traumatic stress syndrome among alternative explanation. It is possible that the repetitive day in and day out for years upon end hearing of the stories of vets returning from the war drove Major Hassan to find some type of spiritual peace. It is very plausible that he looked to religion to find this peace, this internal peace. And then I cite my own study, which I just talked to you about how after September 11th people went, increased their religious faith. Well, I gave you other stories about learning more, but also people talked about, building their strength, having to believe there was a better world, finding comfort. And then I quote in the book W.E.B. Du Bois, Soul of Black Folks, talking about how African Americans for centuries have, religious faith has been a pillar of their strength. So, I'm arguing, in other words, for a different causality, that it was the trauma of war and killing that increased his religiosity. Whereas the media story is his religiosity made him want to kill. And I'm kind of saying, I think the story is quite ridiculous. Anyhow, the demonization is going on and it's getting even grander now. So my conclusion was that things in the environment here are a little bit better. The hegemony of these negative messages has been broken, but as long as people have interests, vested interests in keeping up hatred, things aren't going to change for the better. That's
Louise, did you want Rania volunteer to moderate your Q&A? Would you like her to come up, or do you feel comfortable? Rania, how do you?
Yeah, you do it, right? Okay. There's always somebody in the crowd that doesn't like me.
Hello. My name is Rania Shkaraz, and I'm the Family Party Program Coordinator at HomelandInsecurity. So we have the next 15-20 minutes to ask questions, but first I want to remind you to please drop the surveys in the back of your program before you leave. So questions? Any questions? Sam?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for putting this book out. I have several questions. Let me just start with the recent case of Fort Hood and the focus on Hassan's religion. In fact, there's a video that you can release where I think it's like wearing a shash or something, and some sort of evidence he's a Muslim, and they've been emphasizing that. I mean, to someone like, the community here, we look at this, it's obviously just ridiculous and silly, and the fact that him being a Muslim or not really has nothing to do with it. But I was wondering what you thought of that narrative that we've been hearing since September 11th and before. Like, within Islam, there is this, the jihad, the holy war, that somehow is sort of embedded within Islam. And I wonder how much of that narrative, like through media and stereotypes, has been internalized by some young Arabs and are identifying themselves with these stereotypes. Obviously, in the case like Hassan, I don't think he is that it. But I was just wondering if you had encountered other Arabs or Muslims, maybe from a younger generation, because I know I've met some young Arab kids, Arab American younger people who their information about their own culture has come from some of these stereotypes in media, and maybe they're not aware of what they're doing. But I hear this kind of jokes like, "Oh, I'm going to blow myself up," or "I'm going to strap on a bomb and do this," and it's artificially kind of become part of that. I'm just wondering if you witnessed any of that, or if you saw any of that yourself.
I didn't, but I have kind of two responses to that. One would be that self-fulfilling prophecy is a well-known phenomenon, right?
Right.
So I
Say that again, Louise?